Welcome everyone in another video about RPG inventory system in CRYENGINE. I'm Fury22 and today it's part number 2,055,027 and yeah, today I would like to show you the further process of making this inventory work. So let's get straight into that. If you haven't watched my previous videos, go and do that. Anyways, yeah, there it is. We already finished the inventory as such, the pickup function, so it checks the slots, and when slot is empty, then it puts it there. When it's not, then put it in another empty slot, and if there is no empty slots, it's gonna just do nothing. So it does work. It does work very well. The thing is that what we want now, as you can remember from our inventory system, we had a couple of events. So when you click of an item on the item in the inventory, it has to empty the slot, but we have these slots over here, so we have to also empty them. So you have to make it work with the flash, along with the flash. You already know how to use the UI events, because I already covered that in one of my previous videos, so go and watch that. So that's gonna be much more easy for you to keep up with me. And as far as I remember, I already got the UI event listener, and it's right here. All we gotta do is I already put it here before. I'm not gonna be explaining. This is something that is left from one of my UI C++ tutorials. If you don't know how to install the UI events in C++, go and find it in my videos. It's right there. Knowledge is just in the reach of your hand. So I got this listener, but I already said on the beginning of this series that this here, where it is, and when you post initialize and you show the inventory on the screen and hide it, you add the event listener. This is something that is quite expensive. It is checking if the event has been triggered. We do not want this in here. Why do we need this to be called on every frame from the very beginning of the game? We want these events only when you open the inventory. There's no need to work with this from the beginning, right? So I'm gonna cut it from here and put it where we open the inventory, which is fact knows where it was, probably in the input. There it is. It shows and hides the whole thing in here, anyways. So what we want to do, okay, I see what happens. I got all this functionality. I'll put it back here just for a while. We got all the open and close functionality over here, but event listener is attached to this file, not that one. So I can put it there, obviously, but just let me think if I should. We got okay, we can do that. So let's do it. Let's take it away from. Was it here? Was it? It wasn't. It wasn't here. Okay, it's in player.cpp. In one of my previous tutorials, I already put it there. So I'm gonna actually both of these things. I'm gonna cut it from here and put it in player.cpp. Alrighty, there it is. CUI even listener is all. It's all good. Yeah, it's all good. Now and there is a red light over here, and the reason it is that it doesn't know what this object is. That's why, because I cut it from there. So now when we open the inventory, we want to this event to be start action, and the element we get, this is our inventory element, we are adding the event listener, and when we close the inventory we just simply remove because it's quite expensive for a CPU. It checks the events every frame, so I could do it like it was before, but it's really better if you do it like I'm doing now. So it was called event listener. Oh yeah, that was pointers. Alright, then we got this and our event listener. The events we got was fill slot, drop item, and empty slot. Okay, we start from empty slot. Empty slot was called when we click on an item. If event name equals empty slot, and then if this is true, then we have to grab item slot. Okay. Int slot ID equals arguments get argument 0, which is 0 is the first one. Yeah, what the hell. Is it better now? Wow, it is not. I actually don't remember how to get this. Okay, arguments get argument type, no conversion, get argument. I did a lot of times, but don't remember now. Okay, get argument. Gonna get the argument from argument number 0, and now it's not gonna work like this. I need a little help because I don't remember that. I need my knife over here. Inventory system, inventory even listener. Okay, we got this. And the get argument. Oh yeah, that was it. That is it. Okay, slot ID. We declared a variable. Then we go arguments. Get argument like I did before, argument number 0, and we put it inside of slot ID. That's it. We put it inside of this variable. That was that simple. I just forgot about that. I can't remember everything, obviously. Yeah, so what we are going to do now, we're gonna create a player player pointer. So we're gonna go public and see player p player. Okay. The reason why I'm doing is you're gonna see in a while. We have to initialize this first. So we're gonna go here and let's do it here before we add the event listener, or actually a little bit earlier, like in post initialize of the input system. We're gonna put it over here. Like, let's do here. Okay. We go event listener player equals mp player. That's it. That's the way we access the player from here. There is obviously other ways to do this, but I think just fuck it. There's a lot of ways you can do this, but I just did it this way. That's all. Why not? I can. So when we click on the item in the slot, it's going to get the player and empty player slot. So we want this particular slot to be emptied out. No, not here. But this is protected, so we need this to be actually public. Right, if it's public then it's cool. Here, okay. Now, p player, p target per inventory slot, and slot number is slot ID. That's why when we in Flash, when we wrote this event, that's why we passed the slot ID, and we take the slot ID and null pointer. We empty it simply. Now the second thing we had was field slot with item ID, but there was something else, something more to it. So if event name equals field slot, which was when we release the mouse button and we drop it over the slot. When we fill the slot, it has two things over here. The first thing, as you remember, we created a variable slot ID because you can pass only one parameter in the fs command, unfortunately. Then we have to do it some workaround. So field slot item ID. We're gonna do exactly same as here, but Crytek prepared something different, and the ID and ID, and we're gonna put it here in this variable. Okay, now we don't need this slot anymore. I mean, we will, but later. For now, it got the entity ID. Now we have to create int slot ID will be equal to p sender. Sender is the element that is sending this event, which is our inventory system element, of course. We all the time work on it. Get variable. This is gonna be int variable, and this was called inventory slot number. Was it? Oh god, not here. Inventory slot. Oh, sorry, inventory slot ID actually, not number. Inventory slot ID. So when we release the item over the slot, it's going to get the slot number that we are dropping it on and get entity ID. And now in the p player per inventory slot slot ID, from here we know which slot we are dropping it into, equals, we need now entity. We got only ID, but using ID we can get the entity easily, which is like get environment p entity system get entity, and we put entity ID. That's all. And now when we press the button, press the sword, it's gonna empty the slot, and we release the slot in one of these, it's gonna fill up the slot, the real slot in the C++, not only the slots in the Flash. We got something else over here, which was drop item, and we're gonna put it over here as well. Let's just maybe copy it. write it anymore. Drop item. Okay, the video takes already like 15 minutes. This is not needed anymore because it's gonna call firstly this, and after when you drop it's gonna call that. Yeah, it took the entity ID of the dropping item. Now in the player we have to create a drop function, yeah. So we got under the inventory, and we got also void drop item, and we're gonna pass to the item. What are we gonna pass? We got entity ID, so let's do entity ID and ID. That's all. Let's create a definition of it. Finally, these tutorials are close to the end, so that's why I'm trying to make a longer video, so it's not gonna create 20 parts. Yep, it was supposed to create. Yeah, it has created something here, as I see. Okay, we got the drop item. What is this going to do is we're gonna get into this later. First of all, when we drop the item from the inventory, remember we take the item and we drop it somewhere on the stage. It's gonna disappear, and we have to do p-player drop item function. We're gonna pass entity ID to this function from the event, of course, from the flash. We created that in the previous videos, so I don't believe you don't remember what I'm, or you don't get what I'm doing. I know it's quite complicated and not well organized, but I'm sure you're gonna understand if you wrote yourself the whole inventory in Flash by my tutorial. Then at this point you're gonna remember that when we call this event, it was called in Flash. It looked like fs command drop item. It was a capital letters anyways, and it was item.id. You remember that in Flash. So this is what I'm doing here. The item.id is this ID over here, which is the first argument. You have just only one argument, so it's always 0. It's not gonna be 1 because fs command can give you only argument number 1, which is 0, because in programming you start counting from 0. Drop item. All this has been already prepared, so we're gonna go here and we will see what happens when we drop the item. What do we do when we drop the item? That's slightly more complicated than you might think, but I'm gonna show you how to do this, but in the next video, which is gonna be the last part finally. So see you in the next video. Hope you enjoyed and blah blah blah. So see you later.